So today what I'm going to show you is an awesome lasagna recipe. And I also have a lasagna roll recipe that I've done from Happy Herbivore, and I'll put a link to that video below if you want to see the different options of lasagnas. But this lasagna recipe comes from the Fat-Free Vegan, and she has an awesome blog, and I follow her on Facebook, and amazing, fat-free, just like my cooking, kind of cooking. And this is where I got the recipe. Now, of course, I ran it through the Nini modifier, and I modified and did a little changes. So I'm going to show you the modified version, but I will put a link to the original recipe below. So it's a two-step process. So the first process, and I'm going to go through those ingredients first, is we're going to fry onions and garlic, and then we're going to make the paste, the cheesy paste. So what you're going to need for the first step is chopped mushrooms, and I just use any mushrooms that I can get my hands on. And so it does not matter what mushrooms you have. And I use about half a pound of mushrooms, and they're chopped up. And then I use a big garlic. That's about 1 tablespoon of garlic. We're going to also cook that in vegetable broth, and I use the Engine 2 vegetable broth. I have done this with water, so it's not necessary. You only need a few tablespoons of vegetable broth. And then the sauce is this Enrico sauce, and it's the pasta fat-free traditional, no salt added, and there is absolutely no oil in here. Those are the ingredients. And the only place I have been able to find this is on Vitacost, so don't go buying my Enricos. And then for the noodles, I use the Whole Foods noodles, and it's the no boil. You can use any noodle that you want as long as it's a no boil noodle. I've done this with the rice noodles. I've done it with all sorts of different noodles, but these seem like they're the easiest, and they fit my baking dish. And then you're going to need, I use 4 cups of packed fresh spinach. If you don't have fresh spinach, you can use a bag of frozen spinach. And I think that's about 12 ounces, 10 to 12 ounces. I'm going to use this organic firm tofu. Do not use the soft one. Use the firm one. And then you're going to need some garlic powder, basil, oregano, a little bit of Italian seasoning, and nutritional yeast. And you're going to need a baking dish right here. And lastly, we're going to put a little bit of lemon in there. Not the lemon. Okay, so we're going to fry up some mushrooms. Okay, so I'm just going to pour some broth. As you can see, it's hot. And I'm going to add my mushrooms and my garlic. And I'm going to cook them for about 5 minutes. And when the pan dries out, then I'm just going to add a little bit more broth. Okay, so as you can see, the mushrooms have cooked down, and it's been about 7 minutes. And now I'm going to add the sauce to the mushrooms. Now this has sauce in it, as you can see. And I'm going to rinse this out, and I'm going to use about 3/4 of a cup of water and pour that in there. And I'm going to use 1.5 jars. And I'm going to mix this up, and I'm going to wait till it starts boiling, and then I'm going to turn off my heat. Okay, so it's boiling, and you're going to turn off the heat and just let it sit. And while it's sitting, we're going to prepare all of our other ingredients. So let's go over here. And we're going to start with our tofu mixture. So I'm going to put the tofu in I've cut it into cubes, blender, and I'm going to add all of my spices. So I'm going to add my garlic powder, and once again, I'm going to put all the ingredients below. I'm going to add my Italian seasoning, basil, dried basil. If you had fresh basil, you can use that too. my oregano. I'm going to squeeze my lemon juice in here. Half a lemon. I'm going to add my nutritional yeast. 2 heaping tablespoons of that. And we're going to blend it. And now I'm going to add my spinach. And you may have to add it a bit at a time. That way your blender doesn't get all backed up. Okay, oops, one got left out. So this is what it should look like when you're done. It'll be like a pasty. Okay, let me get step 3 ready and we'll come Okay, so now I'm going to show you how we layer it. We've got our sauce, our filling, our noodles. So you want to add a layer on the bottom. And then I just shake it around like that. And then you want to add a layer on the bottom. Now these expand, so there's gaps. And then I add another layer on top of that. Now comes the interesting part. So I take my noodle and I'm going to smear a layer of the mixture on top, kind of like you're, smearing jelly on toast. And I'm just going to do that with all of my noodles. Okay, so I did 5 layers, and in between there's sauce. And the top layer I left last. I didn't have enough for the last one, but that's okay. And I'm just going to do a couple of layers where it's just noodles. So I'm just gonna, I like to do. And then the last layer on top is just whatever leftover sauce. I'm just gonna smear it across. Make sure it's all covered up. And now I'm going to cover it with aluminum foil, and I'm going to bake it covered for 45 minutes. And then we're going to uncover it and let it bake for an additional 30 minutes uncovered. So my oven is preheated at 375, and that's where it's going to stay. Okay, so it's been 45 minutes. And I'm going to take the aluminum foil off. And as you can see, that's what it's going to look like. And I'm going to bake it for another 30 minutes uncovered. Okay, so it's time to take it out. And that's what it's going to look like. And I'm going to let it sit for about 30 minutes. This is what it looks like. I cut it into 6 pieces, and as you can see, it's completely, the layers are beautiful. It's not squishing out or anything, and it's delicious. And I'm serving it today with a tomato salad, just tomatoes, balsamic vinegar, my asparagus, and my McDougal breadsticks. This is what's left of the meal. It was so good. Everybody had seconds.